Today, you're gonna learn what it takes to be an incredible hooker. See what I did there? All jokes aside, this is without a doubt the most important concept for you to master if you want to become a viral content creator. In order to go viral, a video needs to have a high watch time, and in order to hit a high watch time, a viewer needs to first stop scrolling and watch the video. So how do we convince them to watch? It all comes down to the hook. I don't care how incredible the meat and potatoes of your video are, most people will never even get to that point, which is why, before all else, I don't care how good your video idea is, you need to prioritize the hook. How do we craft a powerful hook? Great question. I'm gonna walk you through my system right now. All great hooks can be broken down into 3 different layers. Up first, we have the North Star, the one indisputable aspect of all hooks. Create a curiosity gap. In order to get someone to stop scrolling and choose to watch your video, you need to show or say something that plants a question in their head that leaves them with no choice but to stick around and watch the entire video to get the answer to that initial curiosity that was planted. Now this brings us to the biggest mistake anyone can make in their pursuit of going viral. What's up guys, my name is Anthony, and in this video I want to talk about the importance of a good hook. That is content suicide. Why would a stranger ever stop and watch that video? They don't know me, they don't care about me, and nothing in the first few seconds of that hook applied to them at all. Instead, I could upgrade my hook by going like this. This video got 3 million views. Let me show you how I did it. That hook first shocks the viewer by showing them something crazy, and in doing so, it leads to the question of how, which will inevitably cause them to stick around and watch at least some of the video. But we can actually upgrade it a little more. This video got 3 million views. Let me show how you can apply these same principles to get the same viral explosion. See how we made it even more about the viewer and less about myself? Whenever you're developing a hook, play devil's advocate against your own content and ask, why would a stranger care about this video? If you can't immediately come up with a clear set of reasons as to why a stranger would care, you need to upgrade your hook by increasing the curiosity gap. Now, let's quickly touch on some easy strategies that you can apply to increase the curiosity gap while also including real-life examples showing them in action. Up first, we have shock and awe. What can you show or say that immediately shocks people into paying attention? Making a shocking claim or showing something that is outside of what people are used to seeing naturally leaves them wanting to know more. The example earlier, this video got 3 million views, let me show you how you can do this too. It's pretty shocking, but let's go over some more examples. So this example is from a really well-known creator. His name's Alex Hormozi, and he starts by saying something really shocking.
If you work a 9 to 5, you're never going to accomplish your dreams. Because forget about working on the 12 federal holidays that you get for a year, or the 104 weekend.
See what he did there at the beginning? He made a really shocking claim, and then ironically, he goes on to sarcastically flip that script and say that you actually can be successful. But anyways, that's one really good example. Let's check out another one. Okay, so here we start right in the action of a video, and we have a little kid on a canoe, and his fishing rod is just bent the heck over.
How big is it, T?
So right there, we can tell like something is happening, and then the dad asks the question, basically planting the curiosity gap, how big is it, all right? That's a very easy example of a shocking hook, both visually, and then it also lets us know on the back end with that curiosity gap, how big is it? I wanna know as the viewer. All right, up next we have FOMO, or fear of missing out. No one likes getting left behind or missing out on something. So if we can say or show something early on in our content that strikes this fear of missing out on something into the mind of the viewer, again, they're left with no choice but to stick around. So here we have a reel where you can actually see, without even playing it, we already have a really great hook on screen in the form of text. It says driver cheat code. Now, if you golf, you know actually hitting the ball with your driver nicely can be really hard. And so immediately I, as a golfer, want to see, okay, what is this cheat code? I don't want to miss out on this. And then the actual instructor, the creator, is talking behind the scenes as well.
There are 2 things that Victor Hovland and Tony Finau have in common. The first.
And so he says, here are 2 things these professional golfers have in common. Again, if you're an avid golfer, you do not want to miss out on what this reel has to say. And of course, it's gotten a pretty good amount of views and likes. Another really good example from the content niche here. We can see it says stop shooting on auto and use these settings instead. We have a really shocking and beautiful frame here, but at the same time, we're left with a little bit of fear that we might miss out on the actual settings that we should be using when filming on a drone. See how they're really planting these curiosity seeds to just keep us waiting for that end resolution. Up next, we have introducing stakes or suspense to our hook. Why do you think game shows always have cash prizes? Well, it's because when the stakes are higher, there's a lot more to lose and people love that drama.
I always wondered if I could draw a random person and then find them in real life.
So right there, we have some pretty interesting and kind of funny stakes. He's just drawing a random human being and seeing if he can actually find them in real life. I'm really curious. I want to see how it plays out. And it's interacting with strangers. He's going to be approaching random people. There's definitely some stakes and suspense to that.
All right, I'm going to spin this globe, and wherever my finger lands, I'm going to find an artist from that country to collaborate with me on a song and see what happens.
Boom. All right, again, we have another kind of random see what happens style hook, which a lot of times has stakes and kind of suspense built into it. Spinning a globe, putting my finger on it, and I'm gonna find somebody from that country and do a song with them. Both of these examples were almost internal challenges where the hook presents a challenge that the actual creator is gonna go through with. All right, now up next, we have one of my personal favorites, which is showing two things in frame that are just not meant to go with one another. Think of this kind of like visual confusion. A person is scrolling through their feed and all of a sudden they get a reel, and within the first second they see two things that you would normally just never expect to see with one another. We've got a great example here. So look here, before we even start the reel, we have this guy who's cleaning a street lamp with a broom. Okay, now this has gone on to get millions of views, and honestly, these two things have nothing to do with the video. They end up just playing out a skit where these people are all talking to one another. Broom has nothing to do with it, but that funny, odd little thing at the beginning where a guy's cleaning a street lamp with a broom, it hooks you visually just enough to pay attention to the rest. Another one here from the guys over at Dude Perfect. He is on a treadmill with a basketball in his hand right off the bat. It's something that you wouldn't normally be used to seeing, and it's, goes on to be this trick shot reel. But again, that visual hook really builds that curiosity. It's like, what the heck is going on? All right, now our last strategy we'll talk about here for layer one, which is the curiosity gap, is the promise of a payoff. There are tons of very quick things that you can show to a viewer that in seconds communicates the fact that some larger payoff is coming very soon in the video. The quicker you can get the point across and the larger that alluded to payoff will be, the better.
What's that?
So see, very simple hook. He's showing a phone strapped to a shopping cart with the text that says POV, you make everything cinematic. Right off the bat, as somebody who watches a lot of these, I know that we're gonna see the actual footage in real life, and he's claiming that it's gonna be really cinematic. He's in a grocery store using a shopping cart, so it's kind of an interesting situation. That is the promise of a payoff. You know that these beautiful cinematic images are gonna come through in just a second. Now, another really simple concept here, you can see it kind of builds off the same premise. We have this really interesting situation coming through. We have a videographer on the ground, this guy's running over him, and what do you know, right after that we see the final product. You could do this if you're a painter, you could do this as a pianist or a musician, anything where you're building something or you're building up to something, show the beginning and then fast forward to the end product. Okay, so that was all layer one, the generation of a curiosity gap and all the easy strategies you can implement to increase that curiosity gap. Now we can move on to layer number two. I call these the enhancers. Individually, these components are not all required, but the more of these enhancers that you can incorporate into your hook, the higher the chance your video will go viral. Our first enhancer is relatability. People resonate with shared experiences, and using some creativity to turn your concept into one that is more relatable to a certain audience will skyrocket the growth of your channel. So really relatable situation. I apologize for all the golf examples. It's just something that I've been doing a lot lately. Everyone who golfs knows the feeling of doing a quick practice swing and realizing that that would have been a great swing if you actually hit the ball. So very relatable hook, simple reel, got a ton of views and likes.
Watch this. Watch this. Oh, bro, I've already seen that. Oh. Did you see that?
I felt it.
Okay, well, you're gonna watch it again. With me.
All right, so 2 million likes, that's pretty incredible. Who hasn't shared a video with a friend for them to respond and say, dude, I've already seen that? That's super relatable, but he made it so much more funny by slapping him and saying, did you see that? So a really easy concept. They literally filmed it in their car with a smartphone, but crazy, crazy viral. Oh, this one is so good. So this is a guy looking to where the outlet is to try and actually plug something in, and every time he goes to do it, as I'm sure we can all relate to, even though it's right there, we just can't plug it in. It's because there's a secret hand blocking him. I know I'm kind of explaining the obvious here, but who can't relate to this? Who hasn't tried to plug in something and just miss it every single time? And again, 500,000 likes. This dude's doing great. Now, moving on, our second enhancer is relevancy. One of the easiest ways to go viral is to piggyback off of some certain trend that is already top of mind for your audience. Ask yourself, what current events are happening? What movies are blowing up and stealing everyone's attention? The list of relevant topics is massive, and there are constantly new trending topics, so the potential to create new content is endless. Now, certain trends are really spontaneous, and whoever is quickest to hop on and create content will blow up super fast. But on the flip side, there are relevant trends that pop up every single year at the same time that you can start to plan for in advance. Here's another really quick example.
People just need to relax, like it is not fall yet.
I know, right?
It's still hot.
It's still summer.
I'm not taking out my sweaters anytime soon.
So what do you want?
All right, so you don't need to watch the whole thing, but see how they're combining multiple topics that we've talked about in this one video? So relevancy, okay? Pumpkin spice being added back to the Starbucks menu. If you like coffee, you know what pumpkin spice is. It always gets added around fall time. At the time of recording this video, fall is coming up, so it makes sense. This is a relevant topic. A lot of people are waiting for pumpkin spice to be added. They're also making it a relatable sketch because usually it gets added early. People have these conversations. Again, we can relate to it. I've literally sent this meme to Courtney because it's a conversation we've had before. So relatable, relevant, multiple boxes getting checked all at once. Now, just as another example on our own channels, we usually leverage this by reviewing or featuring brand new gear as soon as it comes out because we know that this gear is super relevant and top of mind and could get a lot of views. All right, our third enhancer is conflict and challenge. Whether we admit it or not, people love drama and we're naturally drawn to conflict. It's why so many people can't help themselves from arguing about politics or eavesdropping on arguments between other people. Not all content is obviously going to present the viewer with some sort of conflict, but where you can add this, it's like adding gasoline to the fire. My friend Chris, whose niche is baseball, has a great series where he pits two different options to the viewer. For example, would you rather take a risk throwing a first pitch strike to get $100,000 or scoring a penalty kick to win $1 million? This is a really easy series that he's put together that gets major views more often than not because of that conflict between the two options. Conflict also naturally inspires people to share an opinion in the form of commenting on your post, which the algorithm loves to see. In your content, challenge yourself to see if you can pose two things against one another or challenge a popular belief. Now, our fourth enhancer is visual quality. I'm not saying your content needs to look incredible. What I'm saying is you need to challenge yourself to visually show something in the first 3 seconds so your viewer knows exactly what's happening without reading or hearing anything. How many times in this individual video have I showed you an example reel where we didn't even need to let the video play? Simply from the first 1 to 2 frames alone, we were able to get the concept of the video and immediately get hooked. Again, my friend Chris does a really good job of this in his content by almost always talking while he shows a certain baseball concept and including text and graphics as well. In the battle of two similar posts head to head, the post with a more visually descriptive hook will always win. Then finally, our fifth hook enhancer is action. Have you ever noticed how many Hollywood movies start right in the thick of the action, showing you some crazy event as it's happening?
No. 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 10.
And then all of a sudden, they rewind way before any of the action happened in the first place.
What do you do with the DOT?
The reason they do this is because they know action hooks people. And additionally, if you show something crazy quick and then rewind before showing the payoff of that action, now we haven't just used action to stop their scroll, we've also used it to increase the curiosity gap because they never got to see how it ended. Think back to that reel we showed earlier with the kid catching the really big fish. They started that video right in the action. He's doing something, he's struggling against fighting a fish. They very easily could have started that video with him casting. Not in the action, it wouldn't have hooked people, even though there's a massive fish at the end, nobody would have got to it. Here's another way to leverage action. Have you ever noticed how there's content out there where there's someone talking while they're doing something that's kind of unrelated? They could be giving you a tip, but also at the same time peeling a banana or like opening up their laptop. It might seem weird, but what they're doing is injecting action to the scene, and that additional movement kind of keeps that viewer much more hooked. All right, so that covers the enhancers. Let's finally touch on layer number 3. These are very tangible things that we can do to control the hooks of our video. In a sense, it's another way of visualizing a lot of what we've already talked about. We won't use every single one of these tangibles in every hook we produce, but it's important to know what you can control regardless. Now, let's go through each one quickly. Up first, we have what you show. Above all else, the social media platforms are driven by visuals, and the more you can push yourself with every post to increase the visual strength of your hook in relation to a curiosity gap, the better. Then we have what you say. What can you actually say with your voice in the beginning of your video to hook people? Tons of reels start with nothing but visuals and music, but always consider adding your voice to increase that curiosity gap and hook the viewer. Up next, we have what you write. Now, not every video will have a text-based title on screen as soon as it loads, but once you start paying attention to this, you will be blown away at how many viral videos all have written titles on screen as soon as the video plays. It's a great way to increase that curiosity gap by planting a question, making a statement that leaves the viewer curious. There are literally tons of options. Up next, we have what you hear. This is different from what you say in that we aren't talking about your voice and what you physically speak into a microphone, but instead, what additional sound elements are being used to psychologically speak to the viewer. Are there any sound effects being used that draw the viewer in, music that is relevant or relatable that resonates with the viewer, or maybe even something a little off-putting sounding like a horror trailer that leaves the viewer questioning where the piece of content is going to take them. Watch practically any creator who is consistently going viral and you'll start to pick up on all of these small little auditory cues that they're using to enhance their hooks. Then finally, we have our last option. It's important, but it's not as important as all the rest. This is what you caption. Sensory-wise, the caption is usually one of the last things we notice about a post, but it's still there and we don't want to forget about it. Everything that we've talked about in this video still applies to the caption. You could make a shocking claim, you could ask a question, you could say something as simple as, "I can't believe that happened." ... And that by itself adds a little bit of curiosity gap to the equation because maybe the viewer will read it and be like, well, now I need to watch to see what happened. Now, will you be able to incorporate every single thing mentioned in this training into every single one of your hooks? No, absolutely not. It will vary depending on your content topic, but always challenge yourself to push as much of this into each one of your hooks as possible. The more you do it, the better your odds. And I've created a little cheat sheet that's linked underneath this module that kind of outlines everything again so you can have it in one place. Go down there, click it, and use it in your content. All right, there you have it, my friends, a masterclass on hooks and how to psychologically stop viewers in their tracks when they see your content. Other than that, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.